This Waffen SS combat footage fits in nicely with part 3 of the series covering the unit which would become the 2nd SS Panzer Division Das Reich. At the end of the video I'll show more of this footage, so stick around. It's worth it. In part 2 of this series, we saw how the motorized SS Division Reich was chomping at the bit for being temporarily held back. Finally, on June 26th, they were ordered to cross the Soviet border and quickly reach the fortress Brest-Litowsk. Although fighting inside the fortress continued, Reich passed through the city without incident. The Green soldiers had, however, seen evidence of the destruction of the war and were duly impressed. But this would prove to be a mild prelude of what was to come. To the northeast we see what would become the Bialystok-Minsk pocket. We'll be coming back to that later. Our author, named Kurt, continues with his diary. We still haven't fired a shot at the enemy ourselves. Traveling on to the east, we pass through Kopek, Hrozow, Puchowiczi, and continue all the way up to the Berisina river, where we finally stop. We spend the night under the cover of a thick Russian forest. Our only enemy so far has been the Russian flies, which come out in force during the night and drive us nearly crazy. We wrap ourselves in any kind of light cloth, including bandages, curtains, whatever we can find, trying to keep them from our bodies. July 6, 1941. Am Morgen weckt uns die deutsche Artillerie, die aus allen Rohren. We are woken suddenly by the thundering sound of a mighty barrage of German artillery, firing salvos over our heads into the Soviet positions on the other side of the river, which really represents the beginning of our combat duty. At the town Berisina, which is completely shot up and a mess, we cross the river in order to relieve a German infantry unit, which frees them to continue with their attack. They had probably been involved in creating the bridgehead on the opposite bank of the river. This is a good place for me to thank my Patreon supporters who make buying these originals possible. Supporters get access to exclusive footage on my website, military1945.com. Open a free account there and see an example clip. This is the original campaign atlas produced by the German High Command for Operation Barbarossa. We are looking at the situational map for July 6th of 1941. The SS Division Reich was part of Army Group Center in the 46th Motorized Army Corps that was under the command of General Heinrich von Wietinghoff. Army Corps was positioned here, near the city of Pogost on July 6th. The muscle in the Army Corps was the 10th Panzer Division, which had been advancing on the SS Division Reich's left flank since the beginning. The division seems to be confronted by a large contingent of enemy formations, but the truth is that most were remnants of units that had been badly mauled and were in full retreat. Now the remains, or resta, of the Soviet 50th, 101st, 108th, 141st, 24th, 56th, and 143rd Divisions were being squeezed against the Dnieper River to the east. The question mark in front of the 10th shows that it was really unknown what kind of resistance they could expect. Their orders were to attack and keep as much of the enemy from escaping to the east bank of the Dnieper as possible. The red arrow to the north represents a desperate Soviet armored counterattack, which was meant to relieve pressure on the retreating Soviet units. In order to allow the 10th Panzer Division to continue its attack, the SS Division Reich was ordered to divide. Part of the division would continue east towards the Dnieper, and Kurt's regiment would advance on the morning of July 7th into the marshland and protect the 10th Panzer Division's left flank. Because of the marshy terrain, the infantry would have to cover the distance on foot. This maneuver began, as marked on the map, at 730 hours. We can also see that the Soviet 185th and 67th parachute divisions were dropped behind German lines to the southeast of Minsk, which is evidence that the counterattack was meant to be more than a relieving action. The Soviets intended to break through the German ring and release the remnants of the 10 to 12 Soviet divisions that remained in the Bialystok-Minsk pocket. Kurt continues, Der erste Tag bringt uns gleich. During the first day in pursuit of the enemy, we march 40 kilometers on foot in the blazing heat through a maze of unending Russian forested and marshy lands. In spite of our rapid pace, we're unable to catch up with the retreating enemy, which seems to be moving away as fast as they possibly can. July 8th. Finally, our motor vehicles catch up. We pile in and continue the pursuit up to Orovanka. The following morning, at 245 hours, the Russians suddenly attack. Our carefully focused counterfire stops them in their tracks, and at 400 hours, we go over to the attack. This is the first time the Russians have made me feel uncomfortable. When SS Unterscharführer, or Sergeant, Starek and I pass over a hill looking to make contact with our lead company, a Soviet anti-tank gun fires a round just over our heads. The round whistles by closely and impacts, and we dive to take cover. When I lift my head to peer out, trying to locate the enemy's firing position, another round whizzes by so closely that my helmet feels as though it's being sucked right off my head. That must have been really close. A third shot, less well aimed, rushes past, and quickly we decide to turn tail and scamper on hands and knees back to cover. Safe, we both burst out laughing nervously and light cigarettes. The 30 photographs that the author put into the bound collection are not in chronological order. Clearly the Wehrmacht had no Panther tanks in 1941. I have a feeling he just mixed them in with the text and his medals wherever he felt that they would look good. And now, here's more of that Waffen SS footage. Thanks for watching.